welcome to Guitar Gods Unleashed. Today on Guitar Gods Unleashed, we're going to talk about Yngwie Malmsteen and his most savage interview of all time. Now, what this is basically, in 1994, Yngwie did a chat with Guitar World and he was asked to listen to some tracks without knowing who they were at first and just give his opinions on these tracks. And it's quite funny what he said. I don't even know if he thought it was going to be printed. Doesn't hold back, and he just doesn't pull any punches, and he says what he thinks, he says it as it is, and this is what he said about some of the tracks. So he was asked to listen to Joe Satriani, The Mighty Turtle Head, which was from Time Machine. This is what he said. I like the groovy intro, sounds like a strat, but the soloing going over the song is very bad. It's bent out of shape and out of tune. It's very basic bullshit pentatonic runs. The choice of notes in the solo is completely overdone. That stuff has been done for 30 years. I'm sick and tired of that bending bullshit. This is the most run-of-the-mill pentatonic playing I've ever heard. And then he was told it was Joe Satriani, and Yngwie said, "You're kidding! Was he high? He's playing out of tune and the most boring runs. What I've heard from Satriani before was really good, but this sounds like something someone would play in a garage." After the backward solo, Joe does some nice stuff with out-of-face pickups, which I liked, but the actual solo, I could never dream that was Joe, out of tune and terrible. Wow. That's what Yngwie said about Satriani's playing there in 1994. Yngwie went on to play with Satriani on the G3 tour with Steve Vai in the early 2000s, so I'm guessing they made up, or maybe Joe doesn't know that Yngwie said this, but that's what Yngwie said about that. Then Yngwie was asked his next opinion, and it was Master of Puppets by Metallica. "That's Metallica. I love it," he said. "This is maybe the second or third time I've heard this song and the first time I've heard the live version. My old drummer and keyboardist like Metallica a lot, and they played this song around the time I was recording Odyssey, 1988. I liked it then and I like it now. Of all the bands that play this type of music, Metallica's the best. James Hetfield sings better than all the other vocalists, and Lars Ulrich is a great drummer." He carries on. "I feel some sort of connection with him. I think the band heard some of my early demos, which sounded something like this. I'm not saying I influenced them, but maybe I did. Overall, the band has a great sound, but I think the lead guitar player, Kirk Hammett, is not very good. He can play fast and is pretty good at that, but his choice of notes and sense of pitch are very bad. I don't think he plays with musicality or plays in tune. Rather than lifting the song, the solo seems to be the anticlimax." That's what Yngwie said about Master of Puppets. I mean, personally, I don't know, I disagree about... I know what he means about Kirk. It's all been said, but Master of Puppets, the solo, I think is actually really great. I think that's not the anticlimax of the song. I think it does lift the song. I think it's a great solo. Really, really great. But Yngwie thought it was not very good. We got Pantera. He said it was the song I'm Broken. And Yngwie says, "I don't know what this is, but I like the cool guitar riff. I also like the groove over the second chorus, but I don't like the buzzsaw guitars. I'd much prefer a distorted guitar that doesn't really sound distorted if you don't play more than two notes. As far as the singing goes, I couldn't find enough words to describe my disgust, because it's really not singing. It sounds like somebody's either shoving something up the vocalist's ass or something is coming out of his ass and his mouth at the same time. It's a stupid excuse for someone who stands in front of a mic stand." Then he was asked what he thinks of the guitar solo, and Yngwie says, "A sad reason for being a guitarist in the 90s. It started off sounding like Chuck Berry, then there was some terrible, terrible bending going on. Very untasteful. That was one of the worst solos I've heard, but the riffage at the beginning and the end of the song is very good." I don't know if Yngwie knew that Pantera was... because this was around the same time as the Donuts thing, I think. I don't know if he realises who it was. I don't know if he knows... He must know it was... when he was told it was Pantera, he must know that they were the ones that offered him the donuts. I don't know. Then he listens to Dream Theater, Under a Glass Moon. "I have this on CD. It's brilliant. Dream Theater is by far one of the best bands to come out recently. Musically, I think they're really clever, and the guitarist and keyboardist are very good. A great band with the right attitude. They're technical and interesting and tasteful. One of my absolute favourite bands at the moment. I have just one reservation about them. Their drummer, his choice of beats is terrible. He obviously listened to too much Neil Peart, Rush, over the years and needs to take a Valium." So he's talking about Mike Portnoy, the Dream Theater drummer. As for the song, a great intro. I actually even like the drum in there. Another thing I like about this band and this song is that the group like to use a lot of keyboards, everything from synthesizers to Hammond organs, which I think is great. He carries on, he says, the guitar solo is very interesting. It's like a who's who of guitar playing. It starts off reminiscent of Steve Vai's humbucky, distorted tone. Then the guitarist plays something similar to a harmonic minor run that I would do. Then he goes into a Stevie Ray Vaughan Hendrix thing, which is splendid. I also hear some Brad Gillis and Michael Schenker. I'm not too crazy about his tone, however. Sounds like he's using a Floyd Rose tremolo, humbucking pickups, and the string action is below the frets. I prefer low output pickups, no Floyd Rose, and very high strings. Therefore, I get a more acoustic type sound, but I really can't say anything bad about the guitarist in Dream Theater because he's very good, very ambitious. I think in a couple of years he'll have his own identity. Okay, so that's Yngwie saying this in 1994 about John Petrucci of Dream Theater. Images and Words in 1992. It was actually their second album. Their first album was in 1989 when Dream and Day Unite, and then they did their first album with James Labrie, the new vocalist, in 1992, and around 94 they were putting out the Awake album. Then he goes on to talk about Pearl Jam. The song's called Go. I'm going to dig my own grave right now, he said. I think the singer in Pearl Jam should go and eat some Pearl Jam. He cannot sing to save his life, and the guitar player needs to seek help. The guitar solo is terrible. It's just wank-off, wah-wah pedal bullshit. That's the most disgusting thing. So tasteless, so common, so blatant. The worst. There are a couple of people like Clapton, Hendrix, Angus Young, Ritchie Blackmore, even Jimmy Page. They played pentatonic, the regular stuff, but did it with taste. But the guitarist in Pearl Jam and the lead player in Metallica, they've got no taste whatsoever. I don't want to comment on that song anymore. That's what he says about Pearl Jam. And I actually may dig my own grave, but I actually kind of agree with Yngwie on this. I really cannot stand Pearl Jam myself. I cannot stand the singer or the guitar player. I think they're overrated as fuck. I actually agree with Yngwie. A few more now. He talks about Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Even the Losers, from 1993 Greatest Hits album. That's Tom Petty, great songwriter. Not a technical singer, but good at what he does. Obviously, it's something that's not up my alley, but I do like it. I also like Dire Straits, Opposites Attract. The lead guitar playing on this song is non-existent. I think the guitarist bought a Chuck Berry record that had a scratch on it. He repeats the same thing, even though he changes the key. Had I played on this type of song, I would have played more melodically and chosen different notes, instead of that overdone Johnny B. Good lick. Okay. He talks about the Allman Brothers Band, and the song is Jessica from 1973. I like it. Very inventive twin lead guitar in the beginning. It's very musical and on pitch. What they're doing right. Although it doesn't sound technical or wild, the guitarists are playing perfectly in tune. A lot of people don't realise that guitar playing is very much like singing or playing any of the glissando type instruments. You have to do it in tune. Then he's told it's the Allman Brothers. I thought I heard it before. Back in the 70s, I saw Dickie Betts playing a live show on TV via satellite from the Rock Palace in Hamburg, and remember being impressed by the fact that he was playing clean and very much on pitch. There you go. Then Yngwie is asked his opinion on the band Death, the death metal band from the 1980s and early 90s. And the song's called The Philosopher, and it's from their Individual Thought Patterns album from 1993. So this was just a year later, Yngwie was asked about this in 1994. He says, the singer sounds like he's sitting on the toilet pushing a big one. I can't stand it. It sounds like the band can't decide which song to play. This beat-changing bullshit, I don't like it. The guitarist isn't awful, but actually has decent vibrato, but I can't get off on it. So he's talking about Chuck Schuldiner there, the guy from Death. But isn't this similar to what Metallica plays, which you do like? He's asked. And Yngwie says, it is, but it isn't as good. But I like the bassist is playing fretless. However, the fact that he's playing it out of tune isn't so tasty. And the production is awful. It sounds like it was recorded on a Foztech 4-track, which is kind of interesting because, like, Yngwie's recent albums don't sound great. I mean, there's no way that older version of Yngwie would accept his new albums now. He wouldn't accept it because they don't sound good. Like, the drums and everything, and it's just really bad production on his new albums. So back then, in like mid-90s, he understood that, like, you've got to have good sounding albums and stuff, but like, so why now does he accept the crappy production that he has on his albums? I don't understand, but I think his ears might be shot or something. I just don't know. Then he's asked to talk about Jeff Beck, because we've ended as lovers, from 1975. Great intro and arrangement, great choice of notes, and the intention is good. However, his performance and the accuracy of the guitar player, whoever he is not on pitch and is very much below standard. Then he's told that was Jeff Beck. Oh my God, that's unfucking believable. I never heard this before. That's Jeff Beck. He's playing out of tune. He's bending the strings out of pitch. It's not the correct pitch. Every time he bends a string, he bends it sharp or flat. I can't believe that, people. Whoever produced and engineered this, or Beck himself, or the listeners, are tone deaf. I can't believe it. That's what he says. Now he's asked to talk about the next track. It's called Touching Tongues. It's by Steve Vai. The guitar playing is really nice. Sounds like a humbucking pickup. I've never heard this before, but I know it's Steve Vai. Steve's got his own sound and style. I spotted it right away, and that's what I admire about him. This is some of the best stuff that I've heard from him. I like what he's doing in the middle of the song. Sounds like he's using an octave divider. Very interesting. Musically and arrangement-wise, it's excellent. I have an objection to Steve's actual guitar sound, and I've told him so myself, but that doesn't really matter at this moment. I don't think that anyone who clones anybody or plays something technically perfect is worth as much as somebody with their own identity. Steve's definitely got it. There's no way I'm going to knock that, even though much of what he does may not be my cup of tea. But this track, I really liked. Steve, good on you, man. Now he talks about the next track, Gary Moore. Still Got the Blues for You, 1993, from Blues Alive. Now here's a guy who doesn't play out of tune. Gary Moore doesn't have much technique, but he's brilliant when he's playing slow bits, and he's got style. When he does play fast, he's sloppy. But when he plays a melody, he's one of the very best, no question. On this song, he plays some beautiful melodic minor runs. I must admit that he even played better on some of his other stuff, like Parisian Walkways. This is pretty much the same vibe, but it sounds like he's playing a Les Paul on this one. Now, the last one he talks about here, there was a couple of other ones, but I've skipped over. The Cure, and they did a cover version of Purple Haze. There was a tribute album called Stone Free, a tribute to Jimi Hendrix that came out in 1993, I believe. And this is what Yngwie said when he heard it about The Cure. Total blasphemy. You don't make Purple Haze into a fucking rap song. You just don't. The mere thought of it makes me want to puke. It's like converting a Rolls Royce into a Volkswagen. Whoever these guys are, they should be shot. And the fact that producer Eddie Kramer, who I've known for years, didn't ask me to do something on this Hendrix tribute is also blasphemy. I would have loved to play on it. And that's the end there of what he said. Really awesome. They should do this every year with Yngwie. It would have been great if they'd done it every year, but yeah, it's just that one interview, and it was by Joe LaLana from Guitar World, 1994, August 1994. And yeah, it's pretty funny, pretty good stuff there. That's just, it's a great interview. Yngwie just, I don't even know whether he cared, whether this was going to be printed or what, but man, he's got some opinions there. But I'd like to know what people think. Do you agree with Yngwie, or do you think that he's talking shit? I don't know what to say, but it's pretty cool. So anyway, yeah, thanks for watching and listening. And please subscribe to the channel. And yeah, Guitar Gods Unleashed. We'll see you soon. Thank you.